All right, y'all. Assassin's Creed Mirage, the newest installment in Ubisoft's long-standing and very, very successful Assassin's Creed franchise. I was really interested in this game. I've been an Assassin's Creed fan since the original, and I was curious to see if I would like the stripped down gameplay to go back to its core, back to the shorter games with the more stealth focus, or did I prefer the longer, RPG like games with the more side content? I was really curious about that, so I was super excited to check out Mirage. And after completing it, I wanted to share my thoughts with you all. So here are my thoughts on Assassin's Creed Mirage. Let's go. Assassin's Creed began in 2007 when Ubisoft had a Prince of Persia spin-off idea that ended up evolving into this massive behemoth that we all know as Assassin's Creed today. Now, in the original Assassin's Creed game, the gameplay loop was pretty simple. You would sneak around and find different cool ways to like stealthily take out enemies and then work your way up to take out the boss of the area. And every enemy in the game could be one shot if you stealth attacked them. Now, this was in the core gameplay of all Assassin's Creed games until we get to Assassin's Creed Origins, which is where we see the first real big shift of the Assassin's Creed franchise. Assassin's Creed saw its biggest shift with Assassin's Creed Origins, and the game was considerably bigger. The map was bigger from what I remember than any previous installment, maybe except Black Flag. But what it really did was put much more of a focus on the player's level and the player's level in relation to enemy levels. So what Origins did was they would section the map off to say like, hey, this area is for level 5 people, this area is for level 15, 20, etc. And the reason this was so important and such a huge shift for the franchise is because leveling now became incredibly important. Because if you were, let's say, level 10 and you went into an area that was for level 30 and above, you're not going to have much of a chance unless you're an incredibly skilled player. So, what this did was force players, and when I say this, I mean the leveling system and the sectioned off areas and just the overall um, size of the game. What it did was force players to do side content. Now, this side content in Origins was pretty good from what I remember. I can't remember not wanting to do side content in order to level up to be to the next level. But as the games progressed with Odyssey and then Valhalla, this side content really started to become bloat. Now, I really liked Assassin's Creed Odyssey. It's a long game, but I can see how people were getting a little fed up with the bloat because some of the side missions were kind of like, all right, well, I know we're just doing this because big game, better game. That's what that means, right? And I think they really got, and when I say they, I mean Ubisoft got lost a little bit in that. So after Odyssey, Valhalla came out, and I played Valhalla for probably 20 hours, and I still was like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what I need to be doing. I don't know what's going on in the story, and it's just so bloated with side content to where the game probably takes 90 hours or so. I don't know exactly, but it takes a really long time to figure it out and to progress the story because you're constantly having to do this side content to increase your level so that you feel like you are ready for the next story mission. And I think fans were really getting upset about this and just thinking that, oh, Ubisoft is just throwing all kinds of stuff into the game just to make it longer, to make you, the player, feel like you can justify the purchase of $60. And that was a huge shift because, like I said, back in the early days of Assassin's Creed, the games were much shorter. There wasn't as much to do, but the gameplay loop felt really satisfying. And as the franchise went on, I found anyway that the loop was just not as fun. Like once I got to Valhalla, I was really excited for the game. Vikings, Nordic stuff. I was all in, but it just dragged. All the side content made it really drag for me. So I think other fans were also feeling that way, and that is why Ubisoft kind of stripped it back with Mirage. Mirage is a much shorter experience, and it really goes back to those early high beats of Assassin's Creed for me, anyway. So it does away with a lot of the bloat and really focuses on a tight story that I'm not crazy about the story. We'll get into that later, but the gameplay loop for me was really great. So the shift back to more of the basics, I thought was a good choice for the franchise at this point because I think a lot of people were getting tired of the game. And I really mean tired. Like you would play these games, and for me, I would get a little exhausted after playing, AC Valhalla for a couple hours and just feeling like I had made no progress to the overall thing. And the issue is not that there's this much side content for me. The issue really boils down to the fact that the side content doesn't feel rewarding. I think side content, when it's best in a game, is when you just do it without thinking about it. Because you're like, oh, I want to know what's going on in this world. I want to experience everything. That's when I think side content is really at its peak. And I didn't feel that way with Valhalla. And I could see how people didn't feel that way with Odyssey. I personally did, but I could see how you would feel like a lot of that is bloat. However, in Odyssey, like I said, I enjoyed it, but I could see how you could think it was bloat. Valhalla, for me, I did not enjoy much of the game. But that's why I was really excited for Assassin's Creed to kind of go back to the basics and really do that with Mirage. So the main things I'm going to talk about with Mirage are the narrative, the visuals, and the gameplay. So let's get into those, starting out with the visuals. Now, I don't want to spend a lot of time on the visual aspect of the game for Assassin's Creed Mirage because, of course, it looks beautiful. It's a next-gen game in 2023, so now 2024, but it came out in 2023. So, of course, it looks great, and Assassin's Creed has really always been a staple for me for graphics and just visuals in general. I think they do a really good job of bringing to life these older cities that we've read about in our history books, but now we get to really see and walk around and experience the cities in a certain way. So the visuals of Mirage are really great. I think the lighting does some great things across the sand dunes, and obviously there's some nice vistas when you go up to synchronize a viewpoint and whatnot. So the visuals to me in Mirage are very good. However, that doesn't equal good game for me, especially not in 2023 when all kinds of games are doing this now. We've had a lot of games that have had good visuals but not good gameplay, which I think gameplay is much more important. But just to close out the visual section, I was still really impressed with the visuals of Mirage. Like I said, when I would get to the top of one of the towers to synchronize it, I was just amazed at how well the team had done on making the city of Baghdad really come to life. And like I said, the lighting across the water on the river and the lighting off the buildings and all that, I was really impressed by it. So I think the visuals for me were very good in Mirage. However, that is not dispositive on whether or not this was a good game for me or not. But like I said, the visuals very good, and I enjoyed them tremendously. All right, so moving on to the narrative of Assassin's Creed Mirage, the word I would best use to describe how I felt about it was pretty lukewarm, pretty flat. It wasn't great, it wasn't bad. It was just kind of middle of the road for me. And I think this is where Assassin's Creed Mirage suffers the most from the shorter game. So in the past, the games would be longer, so you would spend more time with some of these characters, and that would make you care about them. However, the side characters in this game, I just never really cared about what was going on with them and, the emotions they were feeling. And a lot of times a character would be introduced and then something, catastrophic or really good would happen to them. And I would know or not know, I could tell what the writers were trying to get me to feel, but they just never really were able to achieve that feeling for me. So I think one way the writers could have done this is by spending more time with the characters, really making Basim spend more time with these side characters. But even then, I don't know. I wasn't really blown away or didn't feel any attachment to these characters. Now, the voice acting for the characters was really good. The lady who voices Roshan, her name is Shohreh Agdalishlu. I think I'm pronouncing that right. If I'm not, I do apologize. Excellent work by that actor. I mean, fantastic job. I thought all the voice lines delivered were really good. So it wasn't necessarily an actor thing. I think it was more of a writing thing for me. And like I said, it just felt pretty flat and uninspired. Like I said, I don't think it was groundbreaking. I can see what they were trying to do, and I think they just missed the mark slightly. So overall, I wasn't blown away by the narrative of Mirage, but like I said, I could see what they were trying to do, and like I said, I think they just missed the mark on that. Now, one thing that Mirage did really well, or a choice Mirage made that I really appreciated, was that present day is not mentioned at all. So, in previous Assassin's Creed games, you would have to access these memories from the past via this machine called the Animus. So, what the Animus would do is essentially read people's DNA and allow them to relive their ancestors' experience. Now, that is not mentioned once. The word animus is not mentioned once in Mirage, which I really appreciate. Because after some of the early games, I just did not care about what was going on in the present day. Anytime I would be pulled out of the animus, I was just thinking like, okay, come on, like let's get back to the animus. I'm so sick of this. Like, let's go. Come on, come on, come on. So luckily that is not in Mirage at all, which I think is a huge step forward for the franchise. And yeah, I really appreciated that part of it. But like I said, overall the narrative for me just didn't hit the heights that I was hoping for. Now moving on to the combat of Assassin's Creed Mirage, I think that's where the game really shines for me. It's really akin to some of the earlier installments of the series. So I'm thinking about, AC2, Brotherhood, Revelations. Those games were primarily stealth based. So the main playstyle that the player wanted or was encouraged to use by the developer, in my opinion, was the stealth. So what you would do is, sneak around an enemy base and take out the guards one by one, and then slowly work your way till conquered the base or whatever the area was. In some of the later installments, though, it felt like the developers were getting away from the stealth-based gameplay. You could certainly still do it, and it was still viable, but it felt like with the RPG-like mechanics and some of the skill trees that they were more focused on, encouraging the player to kind of just run in and fight the enemies in the bases. And while I enjoyed that to some extent, I've always enjoyed meticulously like working through an area and taking the guards out and like hiding them after I've taken them out and just to make it look like I was never there. And so none of the enemies get alerted. That's kind of how I like to play these games. So I appreciated the fact that the stealth is kind of the main focus in Mirage, because the stealth gameplay in Mirage can get pretty challenging on certain areas. I mean, it's not, Dark Souls level challenging or anything like that. But there are certain times when I would, try to take a guard out and then another guard would come across just out of nowhere and I wasn't expecting it. So I really appreciated how they like tweaked it a little bit, because a lot of times in the early games, the guards had like very predictable patterns and you could take them out and then get rid of it, get rid of the body or anything like that. However, the Mirage, I noticed that some of the guards like had tricky patterns or they would overlap in weird ways. So it was always like kind of a nice puzzle for me to figure that out, and I really appreciated that. So I think the stealth gameplay in Mirage is very good, and I was glad that they kind of moved away from the more brawler like play styles, as I like to call it, and the higher emphasis on stealth just made the game way more enjoyable for me. Because like I said, that's the nostalgia I feel for these older installments of Assassin's Creed. So I really appreciated the fact that the developers went back to the stealth gameplay. Now, they did still leave in some of the RPG game elements, which these aren't necessarily RPG mechanics, but they were in the RPG like Assassin's Creed games. So one thing I always thought was cool, if you would go into a camp in some of the later installments, there would be archers. So a lot of times when you're going into the camp, what you do is, you call your eagle in, and then the eagle kind of scans and like plots out who you're gonna, take out and whatnot. But in Mirage, there are archers. So if there's an archer on the top, what he will do when you call your eagle in is shoot an arrow at it. So you have to like figure out a way to take the archer out first, and then you can call your eagle in. So little tweaks like that from some of the more RPG like games, I did like that they were put into Mirage. But for the most part, it is a lot like Assassin's Creed 2. I've been playing it recently, and I can really see the similarities in what they were trying to go back to. So I do appreciate the emphasis on stealth gameplay. Now, when it comes to the brawler style, you definitely can play that. And what I mean by the brawler style is that you're not sneaking around, you're just going in loud and trying to take out all the enemies at once, kind of. That's how I envision the brawler playstyle. And it's certainly viable in Assassin's Creed Mirage. However, it's a lot more difficult. So in Assassin's Creed 2, or even some of the earlier games, if you're fighting a group of enemies, essentially what they will do is kind of like take turns attacking you. So like as long as you have the rhythm down pretty good, you can counter or dodge or whatever you need to do to avoid these attacks. In Mirage, though, that's all gone away with. They no longer like wait in line to attack you. Essentially now it's just like, hey, any of us can attack you at any time. Sometimes we'll attack you two at once, and you got to figure it out. So I appreciate the fact that they made the brawler playstyle a little harder, which to me indicates that the developers want you to play in a more stealth-based playstyle. So the fact that the brawler, you can be overwhelmed so easily, I think is a huge addition, and I really appreciate that, because it feels like, at least for Mirage, I don't know how this will be moving forward, but at least for Mirage, they are getting more back to the roots of the game. And that's kind of where my hope for the series lies. So based on Mirage, I know I wasn't crazy about the narrative, but the gameplay itself, the core loop, and the stealth-based emphasis, I think Mirage is a step backwards for the franchise in terms of scope and stuff like that, but I think it's leading to a step forward for future games to really nail that narrative and keep the playstyle that I really enjoy. Now, this could all be copium. Maybe I just don't want this franchise I've loved for so long to, fizzle out, but I really think Mirage is maybe not on its own a great game, but I think it's a great sign for Ubisoft and what they potentially have planned for the future of Assassin's Creed games. And I wouldn't even be upset if they kind of staggered it a little bit. So, they released the more traditional type Assassin's Creed, and then the next year they release, an RPG like game. If they would switch it off like that, I think it would be fine. I have no issue with that. So yeah, I'm pretty hopeful about the future of this franchise, and I hope that they continue to iterate on the systems that they were kind of returning to and then further fleshing out in Mirage. All right, everyone, that is going to do it for me today. As always, thank you so much for the support and, just checking out the video. If you did enjoy the video, please leave a like and subscribe. That would be huge. Please, maybe even tell a friend about the video. That would be amazing. Also, I'm curious about your thoughts of Assassin's Creed Mirage, so be sure to leave those down in the comments below. Did you like the game? Did you not like the game? Are you a fan of Assassin's Creed? Are you not a fan of Assassin's Creed? I'm always interested to see what other people think about topics that I'm discussing, so feel free to drop those thoughts in the comments below. Also, if you're interested in other things that I'm doing, the best place to check those out is going to be over on Twitch. So I stream on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons from around 4 to 6 Eastern time. And then I usually do a longer weekend stream on either Saturday or Sunday morning. So if you're curious about what game I'm currently playing, maybe get some insight for some future videos, that would be the best place to check that out. Also, if you want to know when I'm going live, the best place to do that is going to be on Twitter and Instagram. I always post on those and let people know when I'm going live, so those links will also be down below, over here, down below. So be sure to check those out as well. And once again, I just want to say thank you guys for the support and the views. I really do appreciate it. And yeah, I will catch you guys in the next one, and I hope you have a wonderful time until then. See y'all later.